And we're live.
Yes, welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. This is Season 3, Episode 7 of Your Book is Why Daddy Drinks, featuring The Overton Window by Glenn Beck.
And your host for the evening is me,
Sorry,
Matt.
something electronic to me just made noise, and I didn't know what it was. I've got too much shit here. And this is Tyler.
And this
For
is
the first time this year, we don't have a guest.
this is a piece of libertarian bullshit.
This is
Um,
50 Shades of Grey for right-wing conspiracy theorists.
yeah, it really is. Um, but before we get to, you know what? I'm disappointed. There was not a single blackboard in this whole entire thing, and considering that was like his shtick on Fox News, I was very surprised and a little disappointed that there was not a single blackboard. But anyway, before we get started on that, um, what are you drinking tonight?
I'm drinking, actually, I've saved this for quite a while. I'm drinking a
Oh,
Lindemann's Cherry Lambic
mm-hmm.
because it's the best.
That is a very good. There's actually, I'm not very fond of lambics myself. Michelle loved the hell out of them when we were in
Uh,
Belgium.
I
And
bet I love them.
yeah, we found a better one. Though a funny story about that, we were, uh, and by we I mean Michelle, myself, our friends Christy and Derek were in Belgium because Michelle and Derek were over there for business, and so we, their significant others, flew out to visit them, and we were kind of, sort of doing a mutual vacation, like we were all traveling to the same locations, but we weren't staying in the same hotels, and we were often off doing our own things. But we'd meet up for drinks, dinner, and catch up and talk about all the cool shit we had seen. And we were going around looking for a bar, which is not hard to find in Belgium, believe it or not. And we found this little hole-in-the-wall place when we were in Ghent. It's like you have to walk down steps, it's like in a basement, and we're down there, and we order our first round of beers. We're eating them, we're snacking, drinking them, and we're snacking on stuff. And we're just shooting the shit and talking about how we got there and how everything has been going. And we go to order our second round, and Derek orders this lambic that I guess is like considered something that like children drink in Belgium. Like not like kids, but like when you're young and you don't know any better and you don't have haven't developed any kind of palate. And when he ordered it, the woman taking the order seriously flinched, like, and looked like she'd been insulted. And she's like, "Are you sure?" And he's like, "Yeah." And she's like, okay. So she goes back to behind the bar and comes back with all of our drinks. And when she hands it to him, it's like she's using like her thumb and her pointer finger, like she wants to touch the glass as little as possible, and hands it off to him. And he's like, "What?" She's like, "You'll see." And so she goes back behind the bar, and so we're sitting there and we're eyeballing this drink, and it looks like red Gatorade, like slightly darker than that. And uh, he takes a sip and he's like, "This is like trying to drink cherry cough syrup, like that someone had mixed with a little bit of alcohol." And it was just it was foul. Like he gave me a taste, and it was just cloying and disgusting. And she actually chastised him when he went back up to the bar with this mostly full glass and admitted his shame and that he had been wrong. Um, she's like, "If you want to drink something, just drink a beer," and then poured him a beer and teased him for the rest
Now,
of the night while we
see,
were there.
that to me is a bad weight person. She should have said when he ordered it, "You probably don't want that. It's crazy sweet."
Oh, she told him straight up that it was bad. Like, she's like, "Really? You want that? That it's," and like she made this face, and he's like, "What?" She's like, "It's terrible." He's like, "Yeah, I want to try it." right.
All
Um,
right, then he brought it on himself.
yeah. But then we found a different bar that had this amazing house beer that they had brewed for themselves. It was awesome. But anyway, enough of a beer aside. I am drinking. I just decided that the only thing that's going to wash the taste out of this taste of the book out of my mouth is Jameson's. So that's what I'm drinking tonight. I am tapping into the whiskey. Uh, I don't think I'll be finishing the bottle because it wasn't that bad of a book. Um, but yeah, I guess let's get to it. So the book, The Overton Window, is set um, about now. It is set in this time frame when or shortly after uh, like basically when things went to shit in 2008. Um, he being Glenn Beck drew on some like later references of things that happened in 2011. Um, but mostly it's set basically where it's the housing bubble has burst. Things are quickly going down the shitter, and the government basically has realized that they have finally um, stepped too deep into it. They've bailed out the wrong people too often. There's trillions of dollars of basically that's been stolen from the people, and they need damage control. And so they go to this PR firm that's run by a guy named Arthur Isaiah Gardner. And he is basically this ruthless old man who has been behind some of the more successful PR campaigns, and not just for like goods and services. Like actually, his son Noah, who's one of the main characters and is the chief protagonist, was the one who came up with the phrase about the lottery: "You can't win if you don't play." But like his firm gets used by like governments for when they want to do something shady and put a good spin on it, or coming up with a scenario or a situation that would allow them to do something, or like if some embarrassing document were leaked, as was the case with the start of the book, where basically people in the government have come to Arthur Gardner's PR firm because a super embarrassing document, very, very scandalous, has been leaked to the press, or they have gotten notice that it's going to be leaked to the press like within a day or two. And so they need to spin it. They need to put damage control. And basically he comes up with a plan. And he basically gets on this speechifying, and while this is all happening, he's got his son, who is a VP in this PR company, who is kind of helping him with things. But he's kind of like your stereotypical kind of like rich kid douchebag, where he's smart and he's capable, which is why he has the job. But he doesn't really put much effort into it because because of who his dad is. His dad runs the company. His dad's filthy, stinking rich. Whatever. And while these things are being set up and going about, he being Noah, the main character, meets this woman named Molly. And he meets her after ruminating about the fact that all of the chicks that he has been banging have been kind of like these like milquetoast mediocre women, because it's easier to have sex with women who are not like if you're going to put it on a very callous number scale, he's going for sevens because they have a lower self-esteem and are therefore more of a sure thing than like if he was going for nines. And he's decided that he's getting on in his years. He's like 32 now, and what if these women that he's been shacking up with, what if they're just seeing him as like the best that there is at that time. Like, he's not that great, but maybe they're just like, well, he's willing to, shack up with me right now, and so he's just kind of a, basically the option of opportunity. So he's got this idea where he's going to start looking for something more worthwhile, where he's going to give up his womanizing ways, and the way he talks about it makes him sound like he should have a popped collar and like fake spray tan and frosted spiked hair. And he's at work one day and he sees this woman who's stretching up on a stool to put up a flyer on a bulletin board. And she's, of course, the most like beautiful redhead he has ever seen, and there's just something about her that draws him to her, and he tries to strike up a conversation with her, and she just shuts him the hell down. And then when he looks at the flyer, he realizes it's a flyer for like a freedom thing, like a freedom gathering where people are going to come and talk about how shitty the country's become and how the government's totally corrupt and all this other crap, and they're going to sing good patriotic songs about how they know what the founding fathers wanted for the country, and how the government's getting it wrong, and goddamn those big business types, and blah 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 blah. So he asks her if she's going to go to that. She says yes, and so he decides to go to this event because he wants to have more of a chance to talk with her and get to spend time with her. And so
right, and that's standard.
Yeah.
You see a girl you're interested in, you find out what she likes and go to a libertarian rally to hook up, maybe.
Yeah. So like he's going there in a cab, and he makes the mistake of saying like step on it to the cabbie in the middle of New York, and the cabbie apparently does so and starts driving erratically and then gets pulled over. And so he watches this cabbie, who I think was of indeterminate Middle Eastern origin.
Right.
I think he said he was speaking Arabic, which could be from any number of countries in the Middle East. And the police are like being super rough with this and aggressive with this dude, and like he's like, the guy's like, help me out, man, come on, do something, help me. And he just walks away. He doesn't do anything. He just leaves the guy to get jacked up by NYPD, which, if you've been following the news lately, the NYPD is actually pretty good at jacking people up. And goes to this rally.
He gets pulled into a trailer, and they're like, "Do you know that man?" Because the presidential candidates are visiting, and that's why there's this roadblock. And he tells this cabbie, "Hey, just go around it."
Yeah.
And he jumps the curb. They pull him out of the car, and he gets hauled in. And he basically goes, "Do you know who my father is?" And they're like, "Here's your shit. See ya." And he walks out, and he sees this dude being led into like a paddy wagon. And the guy looks at him and says, "Help me, my friend," and he walks away.
Yeah. So he goes to the bar, and it's full of every stereotype of libertarian you think you could find, from the peace loving, peace sign showing, tie-dyed hippie libertarians to your
this synopsis is going to take us longer to run through than it did to actually read.
Yeah,
this book has like no action.
Yeah, and no action, no real, and so much speechifying, like pages and pages of just one character speechifying about whatever ideological bullshit. But anyway, it's this mixed bag of libertarianism, everything from peaceniks to your Jew-hating white supremacists, to your animal rights activists, to your sovereign citizens, and they're all there, and they're singing their songs and everything else. And he meets up with Molly, and there's some ideological back and forth where he's kind of like, this is all just crazy. You're all crazy. You're this talk about you taking the country back and everything. It's pointless. It's never going to work. You're never going to do it. Here's all these reasons why you're not going to do it. And at one point he even like identifies basically an agent provocateur in the audience as like, that guy, that man right there, that man's an asshole, and he's totally here to just kind of like spy on you. And then Molly outs the dude, and he storms off in a huff. And while they're there, they are introduced to Molly's ex-boyfriend, who's the type of like libertarian who uses very, very incendiary speech. Like, he'll be like, we need to, fight back. But he won't say how you're supposed to fight back. But, it gives you the impression that maybe you should be fighting back. And that you should be
The
fighting
rally
back
opens, actually, with a woman who gives a speech about
her mom.
Restoring... Oh, no, he does the whole restore versus transform thing, doesn't he? I can't remember when that happens, but her mom basically, this woman stands up and gives this speech about how we need to get America back to what it was founded on and what it starts for, but not through violence. Like, she extremely stresses not through violence. And then afterwards...
this dude gets up. I don't remember his name.
Then this dude comes up, and his name is Dan Bailey.
Sounds right.
Bailey. And he gives his speech, but during his speech, our hero notices the crowd is starting to it's getting worked up and worked up and worked up, and our hero, like at one point, he has continued drinking because he gets abandoned by the woman he is trying to hook up with, and he's like, well, I'm just going to drink it off. He gets called up on stage. He gets called out for basically questioning the guy.
Yeah.
And he stands up and he's like, well, tell us what you know. And he basically points out, none of your causes are going to succeed because you are all batshit crazy.
Yeah, and like,
if this rally makes it into the news, they're going to point to that single crazy guy and say, this is what they're all like.
Yeah, and he's like, he points to the a dude who's clearly an anti-Semite, but based off of his shirt, and he's like, this is a dude. This is going to be who the media says is the representative of your movement, because your movement has no good PR. You are this wildly disparate group of people that have some slight similarities in particular ideological ideas, and so that's what brings you all together. But on all these other things, you're actually so way out there from everybody else that they're not going to actually be. They'll focus on that aspect of you rather than on the good parts.
It doesn't matter how powerful or how correct your message is if you don't have the right messenger, and I completely agree with that.
Yeah,
my strongest evidence for that: marijuana legalization.
Yes.
Look who the biggest advocates of that are. Stoners playing hacky sack, shouting legalize it because they just want to get high legally.
Yeah.
Now that's changing recently. With
Colorado.
More people for medical purposes and for financial reasons why we should legalize it. But for the longest time, you had potheads wearing shirts and bumper stickers that said legalize it, and that's what everybody thought of when they thought we're going to make this legal.
Or they depending on the time frame, they think of stuff like reefer madness, and all that kind of like early 40s and 50s bullshit. But anyway, while they're up having this exchange, and just after Noah has basically dropped Mike and walked off stage, he notices that there are some people in the crowd that are standing out because they're not really into it like everybody else.
They're not getting riled up.
They're not getting riled up. Some of them have video cameras that are only paying attention during particular times. And he notices, as Danny Boyle is on stage, that this one dude stands up pulls out a gun and basically fires a couple of rounds into the air. It doesn't say that. I don't remember anybody being hit.
It doesn't actually say anybody gets shot.
Yeah, it just, the dude fires a couple shots, and it basically kicks things off. Suddenly there are, of course, wearing jack boots, police pouring in through the entrances. People are getting tased. People are getting clubbed. All this shit's happening, and like, Noah's just standing there, and he sees this one cop like lift his billy club to beat somebody, and Noah just reacts and grabs the dude's hand. Well, Noah has just committed a felony, and he gets clubbed himself and knocked unconscious. He comes to basically in the van as they're being taken off to wherever to be processed. And of course, Daddy's lawyer comes, busts him out, manages to get all of the charges cleared. And as he's leaving, he realizes that he looks out a window and basically sees a bunch of people out in like the parking lot, like near the doors, and it's a lot of the people from the rally. They're still in costume.
The people who were standing out, too.
Yeah, and they're
people who instigated.
Yeah, they're still in their clothing. They're drinking coffee, and they're just chatting with the police. And so it's very clear that these people were agent provocateurs there to basically cause it to go bad. And and so that's kind of like the first hint for Noah that maybe Molly and her libertarian friends might be right. And so, he's around basically, and he spends the next like 2 days with Molly, trying to talk with her, and he talks more with her mom. And there's more libertarian speechifying about how the country has lost its way and corruption has set in, and the common people did not remain vigilant and did not keep an eye on the government. Now the government has grown massive and huge, but there's still hope that they can make changes for the better, and blah 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 blah. Kind of while this is happening, Dan Boyle gets picked up by this FBI agent named Kearns, who basically swoops in to New York and picks him up because Kearns is actually a deep cover FBI agent working in the very fringe of the libertarian movement. And basically, when he got hired, and once the World Wide Web was really kicking off, because he's an older agent, like he should be retired.
63 years old.
Yep, 63. So as soon as websites started popping up, he basically created a persona for himself, and created a website with a forum and all this other stuff. And anytime he found a wacky government conspiracy theory, he would basically put it on his website and start drawing these people to his website. And he monitored it, and eventually a couple of them decided that they wanted to do something more than just talk and get violent. And so Kearns needs somebody who's legit in the movement to act as basically like his face, while he sets them up with what he thinks is a fake nuclear weapon. And Boyle's it. So he goes to New York, basically picks him up straight out of jail, and flies him to, was it New Mexico? I don't know if they started in Nevada.
Yeah, they probably went somewhere else first and then went to Nevada.
Yeah, and Kearns, of course, because this is a book written by Glenn Beck, and while Kearns is not himself a libertarian, he is sympathetic to the general idea because he had a pal who got tired of kind of like the corruption and the scandal, and got kind of drummed out of the FBI, and then Kearns himself, because he's kind of stood by his friend, although not to the same extent, started realizing that he was getting passed over for promotions and all this other junk, and he's been off on his own, doing his own undercover work, more or less. No one's really ever checked up on him, and he even says at one point that there's only one person in the FBI who for sure knows that he's actually an FBI agent. like knows who he is. He's been off the reservation for that long. And so the two of them
Which is weird because when he goes to pick up the other guy, he rolls in and shows them his FBI credentials, and they go, "Yeah, sure, you can take that guy because you're FBI."
Yeah,
but
right.
Clearly, other people know he's FBI. He's not so deep that he can't just walk into a police station, whip out his badge, and say, "I need that guy."
What was? Now I'm totally. Was it The Departed? So there was a movie with Leonardo DiCaprio.
Yes, Departed.
The
Such
Departed.
a good movie.
Yeah,
Except at the end he does something really stupid.
Well, sure, but he's that, and I imagine it kind of like that, where he is actually undercover police. Because that's the twist, right? Is that Leonardo DiCaprio is actually an undercover police.
Leonardo DiCaprio is actually an undercover cop working with Jack Nicholson's mobster character.
And the only person who knows it other than Jack Nicholson's character is the chief of police.
And Mark Wahlberg.
And Mark Wahlberg.
But Mark Wahlberg hates it.
Yeah.
Yeah, Mark Wahlberg doesn't like anybody in that movie. But
clearly.
Yeah, and then Matt Damon is I'm totally going to spoil The Departed for everybody right now.
Whatever,
Matt Damon
it's been out for a long time.
Right? Matt Damon is a cop who's actually working for the mobster. So it's like trading places. But at the end, Leonardo DiCaprio he goes back and like everybody's fucking dead. Right? Like nearly everybody has been killed, and he's in Matt Damon's office and he learns, oh shit, Matt Damon is the mole. So he fucking walks out of the station. Matt Damon figures out, oh, he knows I'm the mole, deletes every record of him ever being a cop. So now there's no one to protect him.
Yeah, like now everyone thinks, there's no evidence that he's not anything but a criminal.
And then everybody but Mark Wahlberg gets shot. Spoiler alert.
It's a very good movie.
But you know what? Still see it.
Yeah. Anyway, and also it has a kick-ass soundtrack with a lot of Dropkick Murphy songs on it. But anyway, we digress. And so their interactions are very much, where Kearns is talking about, his past and everything, and he's not a bad guy. He's trying to do the right thing.
No, Kearns and Bailey get onto common ground, and so they go and meet this group and show them a nuclear weapon.
Yeah.
That they're about to sell them for $20,000, but the guys don't have the money, so they take off with it. But Bailey, who is the libertarian guy, is talking to these people, and he goes, I've made a huge mistake. If people like this are taking my message and doing shit like this, something has gone wrong. So he's like, I'm going to help you with this, and then I'm out.
Yeah. Like, because he does actually believe, while he is very much a firebrand at the beginning of the book, he's very much into it also for the attention that he can get.
They're all patriots, though. They're all all American.
Yeah. And so while that's happening, Molly convinces Noah to prove her wrong that something horrible isn't going to happen.
Right, because we totally skipped over something at the beginning of the book. After he meets Molly for the first time, he goes to a meeting with his dad and a whole bunch of government heads where his dad basically starts talking about rebuilding the government, about starting over and
concentrating powers in the executive branch, controlling the media, basically reducing the amount of power that the legislative and the judicial branches have, and basically more or less intimates that the experiment that is the government, the Democratic Republic, has failed because the common people are, they're schlubs, and
we are too stupid to govern ourselves.
Yeah, we can't be trusted with the reins of power, and so someone's got to take over, and someone's got to do it, because if not, things are just going to continue to spiral out of control, because the common people, who are supposed to be the stewards of the government, who clearly can't find their way out of a wet paper bag, um, can't be trusted to do so. So a select group of people who are wise and smart and blah 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 blah, blah, we're the elite, blah 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 blah, are going to step in and do it. In order to save everyone from themselves. And it's not also just rebuilding the United States. That's just the first step. Like, he does say several times,
One world government.
One world government, which, if you're at all familiar with conspiracy theories, is like one of the chief ones among conspiracy theory nutbags, is that they want to institute a one world government. And anyway, so Chi basically is like, prove me wrong then. And he's like, fine, I will. Let's go watch. I've got all this executive level access to my dad's files, because he's like, well, he'll never betray me. And they go rooting through, and holy shit, they find out that she's right.
Oh shit, there really is the conspiracy.
Yeah, there really is the conspiracy.
So she says, all right, let's go back to my place.
Well, hold on. We got to talk about it. And so while they're doing this, they're talking about a lot of like PR stuff and how you change people's opinions, and that you can use basically in
it's the first description of the Overton window.
Yeah, and
anything on any scale of with extremes on both ends, there's a small window of what people will accept as reasonable, and that by suggesting things to either extreme, you move that window closer to it.
Yeah.
Because
so like
if you say, go ahead, because I just lost my analogy.
So for instance, perfect example, pre 9/11, or like, let's even go back further, 1950s. You could just roll up to the airport, basically walk straight to the gate with your luggage and everything, show them a ticket, not even ID, just a ticket, and get on that plane.
Who remembers going to an airport and picking somebody up as they got off the plane?
Yeah, right? I mean, in 1997, my girlfriend at the time lived in Los Angeles. I lived in the Bay Area. She'd fly up, and I'd be at the fucking gate, like in the same area where with people waiting to get on the fucking plane. I'd be there
with a bottle of water.
Yeah, with a bottle of water and my shoes on. And then 9/11 happens, and then holy shit, our planes are super vulnerable now to this type of shit. Now suddenly we have the TSA. Because in theory, the TSA is going to protect us. Oh, and then there's the shoe bomber, that asshole who had to blow. Yeah, now we have to take off our shoes. And then there's a nebulous theory that someone could take a tube of Crest, a bottle of Listerine, and some hand sanitizer, but only bottles larger than 6 ounces, right? And mix that shit together in the lavatory and construct, holy shit, a bomb and blow up a plane. And now suddenly you can't take anything larger than
3 ounces.
Yeah, travel packs, right?
3 ounce bottles, but you can fit as many 3 ounce bottles as you can fit in a quart-sized Ziploc bag.
Unless that bottle is, like, Neil Gaiman had a very interesting theory, because certain things you could have larger bottles. And one of those things was personal lubricant. And he's like, just to see what they would do, I want to take the largest bottle of personal lubricant I can find, empty it, and fill it full of toothpaste, just to see what the fuck they do. But so it's that concept, right? That, pre 9/11, we'd be like, the fuck? Why am I taking off my shoes? This is bullshit. But post 9/11, when we've had motherfuckers flying planes into buildings, in like certainly one of the most shocking terrorist attacks in the lifetime of many of the people alive at the time, especially in a very personal way considering what they attacked, suddenly that starts to sound less unreasonable. And so you shift that Overton window down that time, that scale, right? And that's the idea, is that's the Overton window is those little things that one by one, like pebbles leading up to the avalanche, allow you to take over because you causing small, minute troubles in people's lives, and now you're saying, well, here, let's just have you not worry about that. Or, oh, you're in danger, let's have you do this thing to make you be less afraid.
Right. It's subtle stripping of liberties that, and you're okay with it because, oh, well, that thing happened, so maybe, you know, a guy tried to set off a bomb in his shoe, so now we have to take off our shoes. We're not going to rise up and be like, no, that's dumb, even though we should because it's dumb.
Yeah.
But yeah, the fact that I can pay $60 or $80 a year or whatever it is and not have to deal with that shit
proves that it's bullshit.
Yeah.
Because at that point, you're acknowledging the fact that it's bullshit as long as you have the right amount of money to pay to say it's bullshit.
They also do background check with that, but still.
Whatever.
The wealthy get to skip security. Fuck them.
Yeah. So, I mean, the thing
incidentally, if anybody is flying anytime soon, they don't fly that often, if you walk up to one of those clear kiosks, they'll give you like 6 months free before you have to pay.
Really?
So if there's a long-ass line, do it.
So, I didn't know that. I'll have to keep
I did it when I was hungover after the last convention.
Nice.
I'm like, I don't want to stand in that line. And the dude was like, have you tried Clear? It's free. I said, let's do this.
So, you know, and so that's the idea. And the plans that they find
include the term casus belli. It's a Latin term, which is justification for war.
Yeah.
That's one of the things they discover.
And basically they discover that they're not going to do small things anymore. They're just going to go for broke, and that there is a plan called Exigent, which there's no details other than something big is going to happen to kick that Overton window far down the side towards tyranny.
All of these different aspects of society have these fairly long timelines with a window on it somewhere, and it's like education, finance,
media.
But there's this exigent thing. The timeline is only 3 days long. And they're like, well, when the fuck is that going to happen? Yeah. So she is proved right and says, let's get the fuck out of here.
Yeah, let's go back to my place.
And they bail and go back to her place when he meets all of her friends.
And you basically also find out it's a halfway house for libertarians.
Basically. And she says, we've got these all over the country. And discovers that they're this organization called Founders Keepers, where they all believe that they should memorize the works of one of the founding fathers. Each person gets assigned a different founding father in case they need to rebuild society.
Yeah.
In case they need to rebuild America. And
because also the books might get burned or altered. Right. Or
so they have to memorize them. So they don't need to worry about that. And then he's reading her, like looking at her bookshelf, and he sees all of these things that are books by this survivalist guy. And it's like grenade launchers that are fun and all this weird shit. And he's like, that's pretty dark. And she goes, oh, he's calmed down a lot. And then it turns out that she lets him know that it's a pen name and a few different people have written as that person. But
it was originally started by like the dad,
uncle of one of her friends.
Uncle of one of her friends, who's a character in the book.
Who is seen making his own ammunition.
Yeah. And suddenly he realizes that maybe this is not such a peaceful movement after all.
So he agrees to have some sweet tea.
Yeah. Because Hollis intimates that he's basically getting himself ready to shoot some fools. Like,
I love his reasoning because at one point Noah says, couldn't you just go to the store and buy all that ammunition? And he's like, you like cookies, don't you? He's like, sure. He goes, what would you rather have? Some dry, crumbly piece of shit cookie that you're going to get at the grocery store, or a homemade, fresh, warm chocolate chip cookie right out of the oven? Bullets are the same way.
I haven't gone shopping for ammunition that often. Who knows? Maybe he's right. Anyway, so
Uh,
she goes, "How about I make you some sweet tea?" He goes, "I would love sweet tea." And that's when he finds out that it's not really sweet tea, it's a roofie
it's a
colada.
roofie. So she roofies him, and he wakes up. She roofies him Saturday night, and he wakes up Monday afternoon with like doctors and cops swarming the place, and they're like, "You've been out all weekend." They put an a fentanyl patch on your chest to keep you out as long as possible, which is really dangerous. You could have died. And he gets to the hospital, and then his dad rolls in and says, "Son, you got played."
Yeah. And like he shows how this organization of libertarians basically targeted him. Like Molly specifically set out like Molly is his kryptonite, basically.
Right.
Uh,
She is basically somebody who has researched him, so she knows exactly what he likes. And the point, when he met her at the rally, she was dressed to evoke memories of his flower child mother from like Woodstock, and he's like all pissed off about it. So he goes to see her mom at the hospital. Oh no, so he doesn't go to see her mom at the hospital. There's a security dude in there with him, and he's like, "We're gonna get the people who did this to you. Don't worry about it. Someone will pay. Go ahead and go home."
yeah.
They say,
And
"Don't worry about it. Smarter men than you have been fooled by people less skilled than them. So don't worry about it.
yeah,
It's
well,
okay."
yeah, basically like his dad's like, "Yeah, you got played by a woman. Don't feel too bad. They're
And
tricks
then
of
somebody goes, "Hey, at least he got laid, right?" And he's like, "Oh, fuck you," because he didn't get laid.
because he didn't." Um, but then he's like, "Huh, I should check in because I'm pissed. I want to confront Molly." So he goes down to the mail room where she's working, starts asking around, and like he finds out like somebody called earlier that day on Monday looking for her, but the dude deleted the message because it was a personal call. And then somebody else is like, "Oh yeah, her mom's apparently in the hospital, and it sounds bad." So he goes to the hospital and finds out that Molly's mom has been not only worked the fuck
Not only,
over,
not only did they beat her ass,
yeah, but they also apparently poisoned her with certain
a
very
pesticide.
horrible
And he's
pesticide.
like, "How did they know?" And she goes, "Well, they weren't real subtle about it. They left a veterinary syringe in her neck when they
Yeah,
dumped her off at the hospital or wherever they found her.
yeah,
It was a clear message.
yeah. They're pests, and they're
We
gonna
will
get away
kill
from
you
her.
slowly and painfully."
Yeah, and at that point he's like, "Well, holy shit!" And her mom hears somehow that he's there and asks to speak to him, and she's like, does the stereotypical protect my daughter, like and tells him where she was supposed to meet up with Molly, and so he goes there, and of course Molly's there, and she's like, "I'm sorry I drugged you," and he of course is like,
And the mom
"Okay."
straight up says, "I made her do this to
Yeah,
you." So he goes and finds Molly, and she's like, "I have to get across the country, and I can't fly because well, I can't drive because I need to get there quickly, and I can't fly because
they're looking for
Department of
me.
Homeland Security is up to the terrorist threat level all the way to fucking ultraviolet or whatever it is." And so he's like, "I have an idea," and this is the fucking stupidest thing ever. This is so goddamn stupid. He's like, "Well, you kind of look like a famous starlet." So he calls this VIP service at an airline and says, "Do you know who I am? I'm with Natalie Portman, and we've had a rough weekend. We need to get out of New York quickly and discreetly." So he gets led through he puts makeup on her and like a ball cap and sunglasses, and they get led through these underground tunnels at the airport, and they get through security after she seduces a Star Wars nerd. So stupid.
Yeah, and she does it by misquoting uh,
Yes. It's so
Like,
stupid.
yeah,
She has to take off her jewelry because it sets off the metal detector, and this TSA guy pulls out the necklace that she dropped in and goes, "I thought you were Jewish," and he's holding up her silver cross. So she's like, the force is strong with this one. And what else does she? Oh, these are not the droids you're looking for. And fucking
and
makes
it's
him
just
just
like,
jizz himself, so he lets her go.
and while this is happening, Danny and Kearns are setting up this deal, and Danny's just getting a bad vibe the entire
Well,
time, and
Danny has also sent secret messages to everyone in his group. Hey,
shit's gonna go down.
Kearns has intimated to Bailey, Danny Bailey, what the plan is, and the plan is he's going to give these guys this fake nuclear weapon, and they're going to try to drive it in and blow up a congressman's office in the middle of Las Vegas. And they're saying that the bomb is similar to one in size of what was dropped on Hiroshima.
No, that's
Did he say
different.
bigger?
No. It's so.
Okay, so
basically,
like, Danny
there's-
says, "Stay the fuck away from Vegas."
yeah, and the thing is, the group that they were supposed to meet up with was 5 guys, and the first time that they meet up with them, there's only 4, and one of them supposedly was going to get there late, but they didn't have the money because the 5th guy is supposed to have the money, and so they didn't give them the bomb, and they said, all right, well, we'll come back like the next day or 2 days or whatever, and that's when he sends off that message, because he basically goes into a Nevada whorehouse.
Right, he goes into a whorehouse.
And so the next time that they're meeting up, basically, it's still the 4 guys, but they've got a satchel of money, and they're all fucking armed. Like, they've all got these like tricked out ARs, and Danny, because he's such a social schmoozy person, he can tell that they're gonna fucking try and kill Danny and Kearns. But Molly apparently is a crack shot at quick draw shooting and taught him how to quick draw shoot. And basically, the moment where this one dude who's on the phone talking to somebody indicates that he's going that they're supposed to kill them.
nod.
Yeah, they give him a nod, and it's on. Like, Danny plugs one dude, and then
manages to not hit anyone else with the rest of his clip.
Yeah, but it's okay because Kearns plugs the other 3. And however, there's a 5th guy.
There's a 5th guy who jumps into the truck where they've loaded the bomb.
Yeah.
And this is actually what set off Danny's bullshit meter. Is they're opening the thing and he sees in that truck
like
another
silver
bomb
torpedo
and what looks like a body in a body bag.
Yeah, and so, as the truck is gaining speed, he and Kearns basically
Can't hear a thing you're saying now. I don't know if that's me or you. Did you mute?
It would help if I didn't hit the fucking mute button. Anyway,
that's the problem with headsets, is that that thing falls right by your arm and it'll bump the mute button.
It's very easy to mute it.
So,
it should be like a slide or some shit.
Last thing we heard was that he and Danny leapt onto the truck.
Yeah. So, and while they're there, they of course look in the body bag, and it's the body bag is the guy in the body bag is the last person supposedly that knows who Kearns is. Yeah, it's Mark Wahlberg basically.
The last person that could exonerate Kearns, because Kearns has developed this whole persona that everyone knows is this wacky, militant libertarian. So they decide to do the only thing that's going to save all those lives in Las Vegas. They're going to detonate the bomb. So they set off a nuclear explosion
in the middle of the Nevada desert, and
not like we haven't done that before.
And so, shortly before this is happening, basically, it's very clear that Molly is trying to race to save Danny Boyle, and like she's in a car, and uh, Noah's in the car with her, and he looks down and he finds the email that Danny sent out, and he puts two and two together that basically
Says,
once
"Holy shit,
again,
you got
once
me again."
once again, you are just fucking using me. Let me the fuck out here. You don't even need to slow down. You don't even need to stop. Just slow down so I don't fucking eat it. And she's like, she does. And she's like, I love you. As she pulls away to try and go save her ex-boyfriend. And he's just standing there. And he's still standing there when the mushroom cloud rises into the sky and he gets buffeted by the blast from the distant explosion. And he's still standing there when basically the black fucking helicopter drops out of the sky. Men in black jumpsuits leap on top of him and whisk him away to basically Gitmo. And he is tortured. He is waterboarded. They fucking work him over. And when the second group of professional torturers is done with him, in walks his dad. And his dad's like, I'm disappointed in you because I had hopes. I had hopes for you. When
Fucked up our timeline.
you first of all, you helping them out fucked up the timeline. Even though Noah had nothing to do with that, but you fucked up the timeline. You made it so that instead of it being this huge visible explosion that seriously took out a lot of people, was hugely noticeable. Barely anybody talked about it. Barely anybody saw it. There was no even pictures of the fucking explosion. And so now they're having to try and spin this failed event into something. And he basically reveals, when I met your mother, her ideals attracted me to her. But,
also, her sweet, sweet can.
Yeah. But also,
no, he doesn't say that. That would be hilarious, though.
Yeah, well, I was just putting it in there because I was thinking it too. And so, basically, Arthur Gardner has been operating on this idea that there is more of him in Noah than his mother's good, hippie, libertarian nature. And in order to try and prove that, basically, he forces his son to go through electroshock therapy.
Yeah, he's like, we're going to torture you until we figure out if you're your mother's son or mine.
And the results come back inconclusive. Probably right. Because he's pissed as hell that he was used by Molly, but he still loves her. And also, he's kind of, at this point, bought into the fact that things be fucked, and he's kind of on the side of the libertarians. So, his dad's like, all right, well, you can still be useful, but you're going to need to prove that
No. His dad says, all right, clearly you're your mother's son. So he tells the torturers to finish the job and make it sound like he died a hero's death that will maintain his family honor.
Yeah.
And then the son remembers this Rudyard Kipling poem that he'd written for his dad. It was a minor plot point earlier on in the story, and he reads it to his dad, and he recites it to his dad, and his dad goes, "Oh, you are my son."
Yeah, because it's basically about the foolishness of people, and he takes it to mean like the foolishness of the common people, right? So going back to what Arthur Gardner had said previously about how the common man is basically a moron and can't be trusted to govern themselves, so somebody has to govern them for them. And so he takes that to mean, oh, okay, you are my son, because in this moment of stress and mortal panic, your true nature is revealed. And also the fact that you've had your frontal front half of your cerebral cortex like fucking electrified, supposedly breaks that down too, even though I'm pretty sure that that's not actually how that works. But anyway, and so he says, great, you are going to come work for me in doing the PR for the plan, and you are going to help me do this, because even though they did not have the big event that they wanted, they're still working on the plan. And things are in motion. Legislation has been passed to slowly start stripping away people's rights. The media is always spewing the same story, the same narrative. It's never anything different. And they're talking about these things that oh my God, might have happened had the bomb gone off. And so they're doing with it what they can, and Noah is trying to help. Or Noah is being made to help. But
right, he's in like a converted jail, and basically he shares it's basically a dorm, and he's been given the assignment of writing the story of what happened from his heroic hostage point of view.
But at the same time, he's not able to give them exactly what they want. Like the first draft is rejected because he makes them sound more sympathetic.
Right.
And like it wasn't them being horrible. And then the second draft that he writes is even worse. And like and they're looking at it, giving him the side eye and looking at it, but they're like, well, maybe it's Stockholm syndrome. And so he's in his room basically taking a nap when basically the orderly comes in with his dinner. And his order is like, hey, we haven't been formally introduced. My name's blah, blah, blah. You're Noah, blah, blah, blah. Can I come in and I want to talk to you about something? He's like, sure. And so while he's in there, the orderly basically starts looking for a bug or some sort of surveillance. Figures out that there is none. Turns up the radio super loud and basically puts his elbow into Noah's neck and basically is like, all right, listen, fuck. This is what's going to happen. You're going to do X, Y, and Z because I'm telling you you're going to do X, Y, and Z. And then, oh, by the way, there's something hidden in your dessert. Have fun, have a good dinner, and then leaves. And basically he tells Noah to more or less leave his computer terminal unlocked so that somebody can then access it and gain inside information. And what does he find when he goes to cut his crappy piece of peach cobbler? He finds in it this silver bracelet that Molly had been wearing. And then the key that the orderly gave him had been wrapped in paper, and when he unwraps it, it's a note from Molly that basically says, don't worry, we are many, and we're coming for you, and we're everywhere. And that's where the book ends. And it's another fucking
it's
book.
Not quite where the book ends. That's where the story ends.
Well, that's where the story ends.
This is only like 88 to 90% of the way through the book. The last 10% of the book is Glenn Beck saying, all right, guys, look, I know this book was fiction, but here's why it's totally all true.
Yeah, and he basically provides all of the source material.
All these weird conspiracy things he talks about. He's like, this was an actual document. It was...
And it's all annotated, too. Like,
yeah.
The thing is that you could go and look at many of the links that Glenn Beck used to create this particular piece of fiction. And even like in the beginning of the book, he kind of lays out what he's trying to get at. And this whole book is basically a masturbatory exercise to try and convince you that shit be fucked. And that the libertarian ideals about, can show why this shit is fucked up and what needs to happen. And that supposedly it goes beyond Democrats and Republicans because they're both pretty much the same in as far as them fucking up the country. And yeah, it's like, this is a book of fiction, but it's real. Like, but this shit all actually happened, so is it really fiction? Or, it's... So yeah, I didn't like this book. I didn't like the book because Well, for a number of reasons. One, books written from an ideological point of view are boring. They're boring. And they're boring because they're predictable. And the reason why they're predictable is because of the ideological views and viewpoints that they are written from. So, for instance, Christian fiction. Right back in the 90s, there were two really popular Christian fiction called Piercing the Darkness and This Present Darkness, which had to do with spiritual warfare and angels and demons and Christians fighting against these people who were working sometimes with the demons and sometimes unknowingly working with the demons and sometimes consciously working with the demons, basically trying to foil the plot of these demons. And when you think about it, no Christian is ever going to write a book where Jesus is an asshole, where God loses and Satan wins.
I would so love to read a book where Jesus is just a dick to everyone.
Well, but more, I'm sure they exist, but more importantly, written by a Christian and called Christian fiction, right? And that's the thing, is that ideologically, that's not going to fit their message, right? Especially, I mean, if your message is that your God is an omniscient, omnipotent, omnipresent being, how the fuck is he going to lose? Right? Because he can just go hand wave, no, that shit just doesn't work. Your gun doesn't fire, whatever. Yeah, the bullet hits some swamp gas and arcs weirdly and misses the dude. Or the fucking, as I think in one example in the book, the guardian angel holds up his hands and blocks the bullets. Fuck whatever. And that's the way it is with this book, is that the libertarians are the good guys because they're the steward of what the founding fathers actually meant, where the government and the big business fucks, especially Arthur Gardner and his PR firm, are the evil bad guys, because that fits with the libertarian point of view. And of course libertarians are going to be the good guys, and of course the libertarians, I would be very, very surprised if at the end of this apparent series the libertarians lost. Yeah, that the government totally just shit-stomped everybody, took over, the president basically became king, and the horrible conspiracy theories became true. I would be very surprised if Glenn Beck concluded this book series in that fashion. And so ultimately, the book is boring because you already in some way know the outcome. The details and how that outcome comes about might be interesting because that might be mysterious, and so in experiencing that and discovering that might be entertaining. But ultimately, you know that Jesus is going to be good, Satan's going to be bad, the representatives of Satan are going to lose, and God's going to win. And in this case, the evil government that is invading people's lives and taking away freedom and everything else is going to get wiped out, and that the new patriots are going to rise up and take their country back. Boring. I will say this for Glenn Beck. It's a well-written book.
It is.
Yeah.
It is a well-written book. Details. I mean, every person. I have a very solid image of what they look like in my head.
And they have their own douchebags.
And they all have their own voice. My only problem with the book, it was boring as fuck.
Yeah.
There was no real
action.
Rising action. There was no climax.
This
it
really
was like. By the way, these guys just set off a bomb.
This book felt like the first act of a book. Mm-hmm. Like this it felt like the Overton window should have been the first third of a book. Like you were setting up everything. There is no, I mean, even the whole plot line about the nuclear bomb, it itself is not a conflict. right? It is not like the conflict that is that the central conflict of a book. Like nothing was resolved regarding the conflict that was actually brought up, which is the government is horribly corrupt, and Arthur Gardner is basically going to work with the government in order to consolidate power to fuck over and take over. So, um, and I think that that's a lot of that has to do with the fact that clearly this is the first book in a series, even though it gave no indication that that was supposed to be the case. Um, and even if it was going to be the first book in a series, you would think that there would be some central like conflict for this book that was resolved, right? Like
Right.
Harry Dresden, every book has a conflict that is resolved in that book, even though there may be a greater conflict that is spanning the course of these books. There is only one conflict, and I've read series where one, like maybe it's a 2-book series or a 3-book series where you know the greater, or never mind, bad analogy, but like Star Wars, right? Every Star Wars film has a conflict that is resolved. Death Star gets blown up, Han Solo gets captured, Empire is no more. Each one, even though the overarching plot of the 3 movies is Luke becoming a Jedi, the rebellion fighting against the Empire, all of that shit. Each movie has its own plot arc individually, and then there's the whole series arc. This book did not have that. Like the situation with the bomb in the desert, that was just setting stuff up for the main plot arc. It was not like a central conflict that the book itself revolved around. Um,
There is a sequel to this book.
I don't want to read it.
It's
I
called
don't
The
give a
Eye
shit.
of Moloch.
Yeah, which I believe, if my memory serves, Moloch, I want to say, is a horrible deity from the Middle East. And also, there's like a strange like Christian bent through this book, like lot, fair amount of like rights coming from God, and rather than man, because then they can't be taken away because they came from God. Um, so maybe that whole Christian angle plays into it more in that second book because Moloch is evil God, and you know Christian God is good God, or whatever. I don't
Yeah.
fucking care. I don't know. I don't care. I just. But yeah, ultimately, this book is just boring in its execution. And the thing is, I can totally see it being totally attractive to libertarians because
Absolutely.
it's a fluff piece, right? It's a fluff piece. It's masturbation. It is meant
Yeah.
it is meant to make the target audience feel good about themselves because they're right. In this book, they are right. Everything that they think about with the government is correct. All of these conspiracy theories, all of these things, they're right, and this book is written from that standpoint, and so in that way, it's a fluff piece. Um, I don't want to get into too much of a political discussion. I think that libertarianism is at least from what I've heard is a little bit crazy. Um, but hey, if they want to write their own fiction to make themselves feel good and justify in their beliefs, whatever, more power to them. Um, but yeah, I mean, in some ways, this is exactly the book that I thought it was going to be, um, based off of who wrote it.
It was a little more subdued than I was expecting, actually.
Well, sure, because when you think Glenn Beck, you think over the top rodeo clown,
Right.
which is how he
But
describes himself. That's not put down,
but
Um,
this was a little more subdued. It just not exciting.
No, it really wasn't. I mean, like the other than the gunfight in the desert, you know,
Which was
Noah,
all of 3 pages.
yeah, Noah himself is drugged and the scene at the beginning in the bar where they start off basically like the mini riot, right?
And
Those are the
even that
two.
was like a page and a half.
Yeah,
It was
there is
nothing.
there is more ink spent on people talking about their ideological viewpoints and literally lecturing.
Yeah.
Um, for libertarian beliefs, for the antithesis, anti-liber. I don't know, and I wouldn't say anti-libertarian because it means against them, but the antithesis of libertarian beliefs. Um, there is more. There are more words and pages spent on that than there is actual action in this book. Um, and Glenn Beck in the beginning of the book tries to call this a thriller, and it really wasn't. You know, everything was lined up neatly, and there was no suspense or real sense of urgency, right?
Yeah,
Like,
like I think he wanted this to be like the next Jack Ryan.
and it really wasn't. There was no sense because like the thing is like when he reconnects with Molly and she's on this mission to get to Nevada, she doesn't communicate really the urgency. She just says, "I have to get to Nevada," and he's like, "Oh, okay, I'll help."
He's like, absolutely. Yeah.
But she doesn't say we need to get to Nevada like tomorrow, right? Like, because like he's like, "Oh, well, we can take a night and sleep on it," and then she's like, "No, actually, I need to go like now." But it's not like I have to get there. This is an emergency. That some like lives are on the fucking line. She's like, "No, I just need to get there. I can't take that time." And
Right.
he's like, "Oh, okay, whatever." So there's for a thriller. When I think of thriller, it's like, you know, um, like in Taken, right? Like I'm gonna find you and I'm gonna fucking murder you before you can do anything horrible to my daughter. Like that's the timeline. Like the timeline is Liam Neeson's daughter getting raped. Like that's the timeline, and so he murders his way across Paris looking for his daughter. Or Long Kiss Goodnight. They're gonna roll a bomb into the middle of
Mhm.
this town and blow it up to create to create the terrorist event. Like this is basically the plot of Long Kiss Goodnight, but Long Kiss Goodnight
Except
is
better
100% better than this book, with more action, more more suspense,
and more
more
super hot Gina Davis.
goddamn, and more one-line cracking Samuel L. Jackson.
Yes.
Um, so yeah, this book is just boring. It is everything you would expect it to be. It's a fluff piece. There's no real surprise. I don't know why he thinks this is a thriller, because it's not thrilling. It's exactly what you would think it would be, a book if you consider the fact that it was written by Glenn Beck. So, uh, I don't know if I can't remember. Like I know that I joked about recommending this book for the podcast, but I can't remember if somebody suggested it again, and that's why we went there.
About maybe a year ago, I don't remember. I saw the sequel, I Have Moloch, in the like a grocery store, which anytime we don't have a recommendation, that's my go-to. Is go to the grocery store and see what is being billed as a #1 top seller, or look and see what has the shittiest cover.
Yeah, that's a
Um,
good way of doing
and
it.
I said, "Oh, dude, Glenn Beck wrote fiction," and you said, like a year ago, you said, "I don't know that we can stick to our
Not
uh,
bashing the.
criticize the art, not the artist."
I think I've done a pretty good
I
job.
think we did a good job of it.
Yeah.
Um, but then I think someone again recommended it, and we're like, "Yes, we have to
Yeah,
finally read that."
and we
Also
did.
because we needed a break from supernatural bullshit.
Yeah, because we're going right back to that next month with Mina, or this month rather, since it's
Yeah, since it's
August.
already August.
Um,
Uh, There's something else I want to talk about. Something
Okay.
else that America is doing that pisses me off.
Okay.
About a week ago, I get sent a link. And it's for a short clip, a short video. And it's, in fact, a trailer. Not a trailer for a movie. A trailer for a movie. The 50 Shades of Grey movie. They did not release a trailer for their movie. They released a trailer for the trailer.
Yeah, because the movie comes out like next February.
Just stop it, America. No, just don't.
You know what? I'm just going to watch Secretary, and it's basically the same plot, but hotter and has better kink.
I don't know. It has Maggie Gyllenhaal's melty puppy face in it.
No, dude. You should see it.
I've seen it.
Yeah.
Maggie Gyllenhaal's face looked like someone took a candle that was shaped like a puppy and melted it a little bit.
That's messed up.
That's
So messed up.
it is. That's my personal opinion, and I've been drinking, so I'm going to share it.
All right.
Who is even in 50 Shades of Grey? I didn't even figure that out.
No, they had some dude for Christian, and then that dude bailed.
I don't
And
care
because he-
about Christian.
I don't know. Let me look it up because
Dakota Johnson?
that
I don't know. It's somebody.
50 Shades of Grey. All right, hold on. IMDb. Why is this slow?
Let's see. She was in Nothing I've Seen.
Jamie Dornan. Anastasia Steele. God, what a shitty fucking name.
I have not seen anything that she's been in.
Jamie Dorian.
Jamie
has
Dornan
been-
is Christian Grey.
Yeah, he's a TV actor. He has 11 acting
okay. I know
credits.
who he is. He played the sheriff and the huntsman dude on Once Upon a Time.
He did? Oh, yeah.
That's what IMDb says.
Yeah. And then, yeah. So basically, relatively no-name.
I still don't care. Like, if somebody wants to pay us a lot of money, again, I would consider going to see this, but it would have to be a lot.
Oh, yeah. This is, like, $2,400. So you guys want to raise $2,400?
No. That's what we got last time. I'm thinking it
No,
would have to be close.
$2,400. That's double what we got last time.
Didn't we get $2,000 last time?
No, we got
12.
12.
Okay, so 2,400.
2,400.
Let's call it 2,500. If somebody wants to pony that up, we'll go see 50 Shades of Grey. And
we still need to finish all the backer rewards from the last one.
We really just need to send out pictures at this point.
Yeah, and recordings. Speaking of which, Convolution is coming up in September. Yeah, let's see, what's the date? Convolution.
September 26th through 28th.
Yep. And it's looking good. We got sent the potential panel list to see if we wanted to be on other panels other than our own, and some of the topics were pretty good.
I signed up for a few.
Yeah, I'm actually was approached to be in one basically about kink and about how 50 Shades of Grey gets kink wrong. So that'll be amusing because it'll be like revisiting our podcast for that. But yeah, it should be a good time. I am looking forward to it and hope
steampunk erotica as like an example of good kink.
Why would I do that? And everyone would know that it's just saying the words steampunk erotica. Automatically, people would be like, "You're full of shit."
No. That's the title of the book. It's amazing. Don't judge a book by a shitty title.
Guys, guys, there's a fucking dirigible dogfight with particle cannons. It's fucking amazing. Amazing.
That speaking of which, we have our book for the convention
Yeah. It
somewhere
is
here on my
in
desk.
In the Breath of a Moment by Andrew. Okay, I don't know how to pronounce his last name. This may sound horrible. It's Knicksman, Kieniksman. It is a I wouldn't even call this a novel or a novelette. It's a folio that's 101 pages long, counting the about the author page.
It's
And
short
counting
stories though,
and well
and
no and
poetry.
even blank pages are numbered.
Shit, I
Yeah,
haven't even. Oh,
page 98 is the last page in the book, and 99 and 100 are blank.
I've lost my copy. I don't know where it is, so I guess I
Okay,
don't have to read it.
but yeah, it's a collection. No, you fuck have to read this. I'm not reading this shit alone. You ass, you're not coming to do that to us.
I'll
But yeah,
roll up
it
there and be
is
like, I
it,
didn't read it.
basically this dude published a collection of his own short fiction and poetry, and it was on the same list of the worst rated Kindle Marketplace books that we got in
Right.
Kigwa. Um, yeah, the back reads, "A man gets a chance to have one last dance with his deceased wife. ... A woman haunted by the ghost of her mother takes desperate measures. An insomniac comes to grips with an awful truth before he can rest. A runaway looking for shelter finds more than she expected. The fate of the free world is decided by a paperclip. The truth about heaven is finally revealed." Spoilers, it's probably shit. In this collection of short tales, all these things and more happen in the breath of a moment.
And when it says short tales, we're talking like 3 to 4 pages. Like
He's got a
2
friend
pages.
script in here. I just opened this, and page 55 to 57, the title is Billy Shakespeare, sitcom writer, and it's literally the characters from Friends. Monica, Chandler, Ross, talking. And it's basically a scene from Friends written as if it was done by Shakespeare.
You know,
This is going to be an amazing
you could
conversation.
do a live reading of this entire thing, and it would be shorter than last year's podcast.
Well, yeah, last year's podcast was fucking absurd. And this podcast
Because
is
the person with his finger on the button got super drunk and didn't know when to moderate anybody or cut them off.
That's what happens.
That was me.
I know. So, anyway, we're over an hour and a half now on
Are
this
we?
podcast. Yes, we
Awesome.
are. So
I'm not gonna be taking drinks from Kendra this time.
I'm
Because
going to go through this book.
that's what wrecked me last time.
I'm going through this book, and I'm coming up with a drinking game for us. I am. I'm doing it.
Okay.
Because I intend to get wrecked. Like,
I fully believe we should, but
yeah. Anyway, Overton Window. Don't read it. It's bullshit. If you know anything about Glenn Beck, you can pretty much guess the outcome of the book. Yeah. That's all I have.
I have nothing else to say about this book. I'm glad it's done.
Yeah.
Now
it
I
was.
get like a blessed 2 weeks to read good books before I have to read something shitty again.
Yeah.
I should probably
This
go
book
buy
was.
that book.
Yeah. This book was imminently forgettable. Like, and also, but strangely, I think because it was so boring, like there was no action to help propel it along, I had some difficulty actually forcing myself to sit down and read it. But anyway, yeah, Mr. Sleep is the next book I'm going to be reading that I'm actually going to enjoy. So,
I've actually signed up with this thing called BookBub.
BookBub.
BookBub, like.
Okay.
It's what
Hub
Wolverine
with a
would call
B.
a book. Yeah,
Okay.
BookBub, BookBub, and it's a mailing list. You go to this site and you put in the type of books you like, and it sends you daily recommendations for ebooks that are usually between $3 and $0.
Okay.
So I've gotten quite a few books from that. So I've got plenty to read. The new Richard Kadri book comes out in the next couple of weeks. Looking forward to that.
The next Iron Druid book came out, I think, last month.
Got it and read it.
What do you think? I haven't read it yet.
It's good. You can tell he's trying to ramp up to the final books.
Mm-hmm.
So this is very much an interim book.
Mm.
Not a whole lot. Everybody's really split up in this book. There isn't a whole lot done together.
Okay.
But you find out who killed the god in the last book.
Oh,
okay. And it's pretty fucked up.
Ooh, okay.
But it's good. It's good. Not the best of the series, but
not bad.
Not bad.
Okay.
Entertaining.
All right. Cool. Well, that's all I have. You have anything more you want to say?
No. Next month we're going to be reading Mina, the Dracula Story Continues by Marie Kirley.
Fan fiction.
And it looks like in Bram Stoker's immortal classic Dracula, an extraordinary woman named Mina Harker became the living object of a vampire's obsession. He came to her in the night like a demon lover, opening a vein in his chest and pressing her tender lips to the wound.
Oh my God! Whoever recommended this book, fuck you! Really?
Consumed by passion, Mina drank of his blood. And from that moment, oh God, they started a sentence with and. And from that moment on, his seductive power filled her senses with strange, forbidden longings. Only one thing saved her soul from eternal damnation, a stake driven through the heart of Count Dracula. But that doesn't tell you anything about this book.
No, Pete, thanks a lot. You just recounted Bram Stoker's Dracula in the synopsis for your book. This does not bode well.
Right?
This does not bode well.
But there's a few versions of the book. Apparently there is a re-release of paperback in 2007 where it's like...
And you know what we're reading? You know what we're reading for September for our own book?
That's the...
Bear fucking.
Oh, yeah?
Bear fucking. We're reading that bear book. It's been a while since we had any horrible, like, human on non-human.
Wait. Did Kestrel recommend this?
No. Somebody else did because they saw it. Apparently, it is written by a legit author in Canada. And the book itself has won an award. And supposedly, I haven't researched the award, but supposedly it's a legit literary award. But it's a book about a woman who fucks a bear.
Oh shit, I have to read Amish Vampires in Space.
Yes, you do. You have to get on, because I am curious to... You know what? I will read that with you.
I have to do it as part of a challenge with somebody.
I know, but it's solidarity, man. I can't let you possibly suffer alone. Let me know when you start, and I'll read it with you.
Shit, I'm trying to
Maybe
find...
we can do a half cast about it, where you can be like,
yeah.
dude, I read this book, and it was good, so fuck you, you owe me $5.
It's called Bear.
Yeah, it's just called Bear.
Married Angle.
Yeah.
So when are we going to read the Kardashian book? October?
October. That's it. We're done for the rest of the year.
Sweet.
We've got Mina, bear fucking, and then the Jenner boys.
I can't even remember what it's called. Girl, isn't it?
No, I thought it was written by the Jenner, whatever the dad's sons. From before they became the Kardashians, because isn't the Kardashians the mom's name?
It's by Kendall and Kylie Jenner. Those sound like chick names.
But they're boys. They're boys. Kyle.
It says Kylie.
Kylie. I don't know.
If you named your son Kylie...
That family's fucked up, dude. That family is... Look at that family, man. That family is fucked up. Like, yeah, anyway. So yeah, that's the rest of our year. And then November is the Good Book Podcast, and December is the Year in Review.
They're both girls.
All right, well, whatever.
That's what Google Images.
I feel.
I mean, their dad kind of looks like a girl now too because of all the plastic surgery, but they're definitely girls.
I feel better than that. I apparently know even less about that family than I thought. That makes me feel good about myself.
According to Google, they hang out with Justin Bieber.
That is just another reason why I think they should be bombed.
So, thank you for listening to another episode of Your Book is Why Daddy Drinks. This has been Season 3, Episode 7, featuring the Overton Window by Glenn Beck.
That should Tyler. Should be just my sign off for the rest of this year. Fuck you, Justin Bieber. I'm Matt.
Thank you, and good night.
Good night.